Okay, you've got a fitness idea. I'm not quite sure what to do. Please watch this video. Okay, everybody, Stephen Key here with someone that's going to provide some great information for you if you're an entrepreneur. Al Smith, thank you for joining us at Invent Right TV.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, you're doing a lot in terms of coming up with ideas, protecting ideas, selling ideas, and we want to learn everything we can about what to do, maybe what not to do. So that's why I'm so happy to have you on our channel. So first of all, let's start. You're in the fitness industry, correct?
That is correct. I've been in fitness for over 30 years now as a trainer, gym owner, competitive bodybuilder, the entire spectrum.
And you also, so you're creating products in this category.
That's correct. Using that experience, what I've learned from small gym owners as well as clients, what really is practical. What in 2024, what makes sense. So that's where I'm focusing my energy.
But but you also have a day job too. What else do you do besides come up with inventions and help people become in better shape?
My day job is I'm a software architect, and specifically what that means is that I solve problems by using componentization or object-oriented programming. And the irony is, there's a direct relationship in the way that I solve the same problems with software as I do with fitness. I just decompose the fitness problems into smaller modular units that I recompose together to solve a bigger problem, like a set of Legos. And that's really how I set up the FT training system.
So how do you before we do a deep dive on some of the products that you've done and how you created those products, how do you do both? Because a lot of entrepreneurs are like, maybe I have a family, I've got kids, I've got a job, but I have this thing I want to do. I've got this dream of a new product. How do you find the time to do both?
I have to admit, at this point, I'm single and I don't have kids. And I'm gonna be honest with you. I always tell myself, "Wow, if I had a family, it'd be incredibly difficult right now."
Okay.
But doing both, I use the phrase, work like Da Vinci. I work manic. I will work 12 to 14 hours straight when I have an idea, and then I will crash and sleep for another 1 or 2 days. So it's a typical inventor.
Okay. So let's talk about some of the reasons why you're inventing in this category. We know you mentioned that you're a bodybuilder, fitness is really important to you, but why jump in and create products? Why did you do that?
If I were to explain anything, I just enjoy solving problems. I tell people, if I could solve it by painting it with crayons, I would do it. You know, in this particular case, the problem that I constantly see is reuse, where there are so many pieces of equipment that are the exact same thing. And I know a lot of people in the industry are like, oh, I can use it here. Oh, I can use this bar here. So once I looked at that, I started decomposing and said, all right, let's just start reusing it. And so it was like a big puzzle piece in my head. And that's what I wanted to try to help people save money, especially customers.
Okay. So you're looking at the marketplace and you realize, hey, there's got to be a better way. Everybody's heard that before. And you start to create uh, your prototypes. Let's talk about building prototypes because for some people it's really difficult to do. How do you build your prototypes?
So really, when I start with my prototype, first place the first thing I do is I have to see it in my head. Uh, at the beginning, I would go in CAD. You create a CAD drawing, but honestly, CAD was a little too slow for me. So I'll run out to the garage and I will just tinker it and build it if I need to. And then if I see if it makes sense, I would continue. And towards the beginning, I didn't have any welding skills. So I would use a bunch of nuts and bolts to try to finagle things together. And at some point, I just took a welding class and now I learned how to weld. So now I'm able to do that as well. And a lot of YouTube videos.
Well, okay, so you've got this idea, you're building prototypes. How many prototypes do you go through, but finally you get one that you think is working? Is it like one or two, or do you even have to build more than that to figure it out?
I usually have to build more than that. And I use a lean and agile method, which is what Henry Ford used as well. You know, I will see the problem, I will build one piece, and in order to keep the money coming in, I will build what's known as the MVP, the minimal viable product, and then I would start selling them on eBay. And then depending on if people are interested, you know, depending on, oh, if I get requests, well, tell me if I'm going in the right direction. If I don't get a lot of requests, I stop. But then once people start purchasing it, they give me their feedback, then I progressively elaborate on the product.
Okay.
And that's when I have the provisional going on for, I build that for an entire year.
You know, that's really smart to do a little bit of testing. So you're testing on eBay, you're listening to your customers, maybe you have to make some changes, maybe not. When are you shipping those yourself? You're making them yourself in your garage? Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a tedious process, and I think that was the first mistake I made coming out of the gate with my first product. And I tried to solve the world by making a great bench that did everything, but and I it was mission accomplished. But when it came to shipping, I was spending 6 hours on shipping, and no one factors that in. That chews into your product cost. So now I make simpler products.
Okay, so you figure it out, you built the prototype, you think you've got it, you sell it on eBay, people are loving it. When do you start to think about protecting it? Or do you?
You know, I start protecting it right before I even put an idea out. That's when I call my buddy Kevin. That's when I call Kevin. And I run the idea by him, make sure it's viable, and Kevin will point me in the right direction. And I will put the provisional patent out, and then that's when I can start testing. So right out the gate, I never let an idea out before and have some type of protection on it.
Okay. And we're talking about Kevin Prince. Everyone I've used Kevin Prince, he does a great job. I like that he calls you back myself. He's pretty darn quick of saying, "Hey, how can I help you?" Because I think he's an inventor himself, actually.
Yeah, that's correct. Like as he, and it's great that you mentioned that he calls you back because he's more than just a business associate. He's a friend. He's someone that I can count on and someone that I can trust. So I've been working with him for a good 10 years now, and he's my go-to guy at this point.
He's mine too, actually. Okay, so you protected it. You're selling on eBay. So you protect it. You start selling on eBay. And how do you market it? People are always, there's so many different ways of getting the word out, but I think you're pretty good at YouTube. I think I've seen a lot of YouTube. So how do you market your product to get people to purchase it?
If there was one thing that I would really focus on, it's the marketing. And you know, and there's you know, I've written a book as well, a fitness book, and one of the previous authors told me writing it is the easy. It's the marketing because it can be sitting in the garage. And the same applies with fitness products. So you can have the greatest product in the world, and if you don't get it marketed, it's not going to go anywhere. So for me, I create a lot of YouTube videos. Luckily, I'm fortunate enough where I can make the videos, do the editing as well, and a lot of social media. You got to have that social media behind you. So I save about 50 to 60% of my budget for just marketing.
So do you have a business background to do all this?
No, everything is trial, and it's been a lot of trial and error.
Okay. Because it sounds like you're doing things in such a smart, you have a process down. It seems like you've created a process for you. How did you figure that out? Was it trial and error? Did you learn from somebody else?
It was really trial and error. Working with, reading a lot of books along. Though I'm an autodidact. I like to learn, but at the same time, I have worked for companies as an engineer. I've worked for Amazon. I've worked for Home Depot Supply. I've worked for Costco.
Okay.
So even though I was an engineer there, in the back of my head, I'm listening to how they do stuff as well, and I'm like, oh, okay. So that's where I build the strategy together.
When you're creating new products, how do you do that, Al? Are you listening to your customers, their input? How do you, because you're not only have you started at the very beginning, um, working out in small spaces. I've saw some of those videos. I think they're wonderful. We're going to put those up. But you have built this whole system. How do you go about doing that? What's your thought process?
The first piece, it's the design principle of I did just slip my mind. first principle, where you look at the problem, you look at what someone is doing, and you go to the very source, and you keep breaking it down and breaking it down and decomposing it. I like the analogy when Tiger Woods said that he was when he would work on his swing, he would tear down the entire mansion just to fix the doorknob. And it's the same process that I use with building equipment. And when I start from ground zero along the way, I'm thinking, oh, this will solve it. It's a new product. Oh, this will make it better. That's a new product. So then that's how I have an entire ecosystem solving one problem. So first principles.
So just so everybody knows, are you selling strictly from your website? Is that how you're doing it? Or do you sell it at any retailers right now?
Right now, I was working through a lot of multi-channel vendors, like I said, eBay and Amazon, but that became so cumbersome, to be honest with you, because
Okay.
they put stricter deadlines. So right now, it's just through my website, f2trainingsystem.com.
Okay, great. Let's talk about pricing for just a minute because I know that's got to be a concern. You mentioned it a couple of times, creating something that works, creating something that people want, but also finding that right price point. How do you figure that out? Because sometimes people struggle with that.
Oh, that's a great point. And I had to learn this the hard way. And watching a popular TV show, someone mentioned that it should be your price point should be about 6 times your marketing. I mean, your packaging.
Okay.
So that's kind of how I gauge it. But it's really once I see what my operating cost is, I usually go about 3 or 4 times that just to be safe.
Got it. Wow. So you're a one-man band. You do it all. You create it, you get it protected, you ship it, you do the videos, you do the marketing. You pretty much do all of it.
I'm the epitome of a garage inventor. Literally, I'm out in the garage. That does make it challenging because when I have to provide technical support, if I'm providing technical support, I'm not out in the garage building, so I have to make smart products that really solve it right out the gate.
Is there one piece of advice you would give someone that's just starting out? Would it be to keep educating yourself, dive in, take a chance? I mean, what have you learned through all of it that if you had to do it again, what would you tell yourself to?
It's an iterative process. If there's one thing that I would tell someone, it the reality is building a product. It's like playing Russian roulette. You don't want to just put everything on one number because you don't know if it's going to be hit or miss. You might be lucky and hit it right out the gate, but you should have some type of backup products, something to think about or somewhere else to elaborate on instead of just going down a very narrow piece. Because I've had items that I thought was a gold mine and they crashed and I threw to the side and they just happened to work and people loved them.
Hmm.
So it's usually my smaller products that I didn't have that I wasn't planning on being successful were successful.
So you really don't know at times.
I don't know, but that's where the passion comes in. That's why I'm just solving.
What about the last question I have? Everybody wonders. I know we talked a little bit about how much time it takes. It takes a lot of time. You mentioned that you've got some time to devote to it. What about money? How much money does it take to start? Do you need a lot of money or can you start slow? What do you think about budgeting? You mentioned budgeting a couple times, so it must be on your mind.
Yeah, I've had to sacrifice a lot. Let's just go. It's exponentially more expensive than I thought, and it really isn't the parts. It's the marketing that's been the most expensive. If that's why social media has really helped a lot of people because a lot of your marketing can be organic.
Okay,
If you
very smart. Well, Al, thank you for coming on InventRight TV and sharing your journey. This is this is Stephen
well,
Key. Thank you for watching. Any last words for any entrepreneurs out there, Al, that you can think about?
you know, uh, do what you love. That's what I would say. Make sure that you enjoy it because sometimes it's going to be hard, but make sure that you following your passion. That's what I would say.
I love that. Thank you very much, Al.
Thank you.
If you're not sure about this and you need a little help, please give us a call. We have a program called Gateway where we do everything for you. We know how to reach out to the right companies. We know how to reach out to the right people.
We know how to make sure your marketing material is communicating correctly so they can look at it, they can make good decisions. We know what questions they're going to ask, and we can be prepared for those questions in advance. And when that licensing agreement comes over, we can help make sure it's a fair and balanced licensing agreement so everybody's happy. Basically, we're doing all the work for you. It's our program called Gateway, and if you need help on any of this, please pick up the phone, call us, and let's see if Gateway is right for you.